think this is working. Finally, having some issues with OBS today. I don't know what it is. Auto updates or whatnot. Anyways, camera's working. Good enough. Apologies if the mic is hot. Just turn the volume down if it is. Kind of tired of messing with it. So today we're going to take a peek at something. I've been wanting to record this for a bit. This is the Panini collection of Punisher War Journal. I'm just calling it the Jim Lee Punisher War Journal Omnibus because it's pretty much what it is. They go outside of just the standard issues, and they also include the Armory stuff and a bunch of additional things in the back as well. We'll go and take a peek at that. So anyways, yeah, we're just going to take a quick peek at this. This book's pretty large, actually. So it's, I would say, about the same size as the Chris Claremont Jim Lee Omnibus 1. Number 2 is a little bit larger than 1. So it's about that size. I'm looking at my shelf over here to see what else it is. It's a little bit thicker than, it's a little bit thicker than the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man Omnibus for the self-titled. So anyways, yeah. That's what it is. And standard size, I believe it's like standard comic. Let's take a peek here. I'll grab a random book to see. All right, I got a Witchblade book here. So yeah, it's comic book sized as a standard book. So there you go. All right, we'll go and take a peek through here. This collects, I think, 1 through like 30 or something like that. So right here it says it collects all the way through, okay, pretty close, 1 through 24. Also, Jim's backup story and Punisher War Journal Annual number 2. I don't know, for some reason I thought that was in a Daredevil Annual, but okay, so I guess it was a War Journal Annual number 2. And, okay, so yeah, Jim inking a lot, Jim doing a lot of work over, I believe, Carl Potts' layouts on at least some of it. And then Scott Williams was not introduced. This is pre-Uncanny X-Men. Scott Williams was not introduced until, I think, issue 5 or 6. Yeah, Scott Williams right here. War Journal issue 5. Leaves, come back to ink him on issue 10. And then we got really cool issue Klaus Jensen inks over Lee on 11. And then Scott comes back again on that backup story there. So yeah, I'm just going to thumb through this. Got some pretty cool stuff in the front here. Some original scans. They're kind of tiny, but whatever. At least they included them. It's one of my favorite covers of all time right there. Unfortunately, the book is not illustrated by Jim. That specific issue had a fill-in artist. But still pretty cool. The cover here for issue 1, Carl Potts with Scott Williams inks. Has a little bit of that Jim Lee feel to it, only because Scott is the secret ingredient, in my opinion, to most things Jim. All right, so yeah, we got early Jim Lee pencils here. This stuff kind of had a lot more super technically sound, so this must have been a real pain drawing all this stuff, tech and all this stuff at all these different angles, and just trying to have fun with your job as well. But he did it pretty good. A lot of Arthur Adams type anatomy stuff kind of going on with early Jim. I see a little bit of Mike Mignola as well. I will keep thumbing through this. I think it's around issue 11 where I started noticing a real change in Jim's work. Some of these faces come off a little bit Kevin Nolan-esque, kind of like early Leinil Yu when he was really looking at Kevin Nolan. I feel like a lot of that was going on here as well. A lot of focus on the bridges of the nose and then the contours of the chin, which I don't feel like I think Jim kind of ditched that. He found other ways of illustrating noses and things like drop shadows and just rendering, kind of more in this vein, broken line rendering, letting your eye connect the dots instead of making it super prominent. So we got another cover right here. This is loosely based on an old Zek cover, I believe. It's not a homage directly, but it is kind of loosely based on it, with the big bads coming around the corner right here, and then you had Punisher in this area here. Daredevil sneaking up on him. Carl Potts pencils. I think Jim Lee did a final pass on the pencil, and then you have Carl Potts coming back in and doing finishings on it. You would have to ask Jim Lee about their process on that. It says Potts, Lee, Potts. So I'm assuming that's the order of who touched what when. It's a very John Byrne-esque arm right there. And obviously, Jim, that's like straight out of that Superman run that he did. Not the Johns one, the one before it. But yeah, Jim Lee, early Jim Lee, a lot of John Byrne in there. You had a lot of I'm not going to say Frank Miller. I think he was more like maybe the flash of the inks over Miller, but introducing it through pencil form, if that makes any sense. I think he had some of that going on. I'd be really interested too to see if Wilfs had any hand in this, because I know they used to trade off pages. They get kind of bored working on stuff and just they would trade pages amongst each other just to for the sake of just keeping it fresh and meeting deadlines and stuff. Very obviously a Jim Lee face right here. Heavy drop shadows. I thumbed through this earlier today, and I was just kind of trying to refresh myself with it because I haven't looked at it in a bit. And I did notice some of the issues around issue 5 when Scott comes in to do inks. Okay, so here again, it's you got Potts pencils, Jim Lee, probably doing the renders, and then Potts coming in and doing the finish inks on this. So got a little bit of Jim in there in the faces, but the rest kind of falls apart. Yeah, you got some of the stuff's pretty cool, very old school Barry Windsor Smith, even Art Adams with the zipatone in lieu of the lines. So really focusing on the zipatone for the tonal, not just the gradient, but also like the line work within. It does not look inked. It looks like they doubled down zipatone and maybe strategically hit it where you want the lines for the windows and some of the bricks and stuff. At least judging on this reproduction here, that's what it appears to be. Huge book. I'm gonna start skipping some pages here. It gets better. And there are, oh, by the way, there's other artists in here as well, because Jim did not illustrate the entire 2-year run. So yeah, let's skip some here. Okay, what issue is this? That's issue 4. Got another Jim Lee with Carl Potts inks. Very familiar layout. If you remember Jim Lee's first Uncanny X-Men book, you had Storm and a very similar position on the front cover. It's part of being an artist. We draw what we're comfortable with and then kind of expand on it. But there's definitely certain shots that artists will tend to regurgitate over and over because they just know it's an easy sell. Was this issue 5? No, this wasn't 5 yet. These inks feel really, really tight. Sorry, I'm just going to go back here for a second and look. So this is 4. I think this is Milgram inks. Okay, interesting. Very interesting. This almost feels like Scott Williams, specifically this fade down in here. Okay. I don't know. Maybe contributed some ghost inks on this, unaccredited. I don't know. And now we're back to kind of wispy, so I'm not so sure. I don't think this would be him. But yeah, definitely in 5, definitely in 10, you could see it. And I think that, so I'm trying to think in my head, I think timeline-wise, I think issue 5 would have landed after, I don't know. It was in the same time frame as Will's doing like Legion of the Night, I guess. So here's issue 5 here. There is no, I'm going to assume this is Jim Lee and Carl again, Carl Potts. Probably Potts on inks, because this doesn't look, I don't think Jim was doing any inks on any of this stuff at this point. So yeah, we got Scott Williams introduced to Jim Lee right here on paper, at least credit-wise. So you get to start seeing a little bit of kind of what they started doing together. Zipatone drop shadows. Pay attention. Right here. Okay. Right here. I mean, today in Photoshop, we kind of just do that with... we'll do a secondary color. We'll introduce a second version of a color on the inside of this deleter line to create that separation, but they didn't really have that, right? Flat color, so they had to be creative with the inks, and that's one way you did it, was through Zipatone and, you know, some of the splatter effects and that. Kind of like the idea of somebody with dark brown hair, you're going to introduce a lot more black ink in the shading to indicate the hair color, even though people with brown hair don't have, you know, black hair coming out between it and that. It's just a way to indicate it, kind of like here. And then someone with lighter hair, blonde or almond color hair, you're going to leave it very open. But kind of the same idea. The Zipatone here, just to kind of create some tonal nuance in there. It's funny looking at this stuff. It really reminds me of Jim's Deathblow stuff for some reason. It's not just the use of weapons and that. It's got some of the same. It's got the same vibe. Really cool dry brush effects in here. And again, this is, I think I'm still on the issue, Punisher 5. Yes, Punisher 5. And then we got 6, introduces part 1 of, what did they call it? I forgot what they called it. It was like the African Saga or something like that. They collected these in a square-bound thing that had both issues in it back in the early 90s, like when collected editions were not super common. They existed, just not super common. This right here is straight out of, oh man, there is a Wildcat issue that had finished inks by Richard Bennett, and this right here, there's a panel in it that I'm like, yes, he reused this layout for that. Which is fine. He's reusing his own work. He's not taking it from someone else. It's interesting, too, seeing his early version of Wolverine, how he tried to kind of... I don't even know what he was looking at, to be honest. It doesn't feel like... He feels much taller. That's what I'll say. A little more Clint Eastwood-esque face, a little bit longer, not stout, and everything compressed. Like his most popular Wolverine stuff is a very compressed character. So yeah, he definitely changed up on that. Skip some more here, and I think that this is Milgram inks. I don't believe this is Scott Williams, by the way. So. Yeah, very wispy. Completely different handling on the speed lines and stuff than Scott would have done. Scott is such a technical artist. He would have actually tapered out of the edge. He probably would have went thicker on these borders, right between these gutters, and used that black as a starting point for each tapered line through here. And here it's just sort of being hit and then worked around the figures and the other panels and stuff. So just interesting to see different artists, how they approach inking Gem. I have no clue who... Oh, okay, so Carl Potts inked this piece. So this is a Foley pencil Jim Lee with a Carl Pot ink. And I think the other cover was as well. By the way, I think issue 6 was a Carl Potts inks over Jim. Yep. A lot of Zipatone usage in here. Kind of muddies down the print. All this gray area here, that's all this weird... I don't even know what it is. It almost looks like crosshair zip. It's not like a normal dot matrix zip that you normally would see in like manga, or even like Eric Larson that he used to use. Yeah, and even in here on this face, there's like, it's almost like a streak. It's like a tonal zip. It's not... yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I have very little amount of knowledge of all the zip that was used back then. Ziptone was kind of being phased out when I broke in around 1994. I don't remember really any inkers using it. It'd mostly be artists when they inked themselves if they felt inclined on using it in a specific area. Kind of like in this drop shadow, or this undershadow here on Wolverine, on his torso and his arm. Places like that. This is the... Oh, you know what? This is the Klaus Jensen issue, I think. Maybe. It feels like Klaus, just because of this right here. The boot rendering. That's straight up dry brush. And it feels like what Klaus was doing on Miller on Dark Knight Returns to me. It has that same... It's got that cadence. Oh, all the dinosaurs. And then, of course, you got to wait after all this right here. You got to wait for Jim to draw really cool dinosaurs again, and the Savage Land Rogue issues with Magneto and... all that. Okay, so 8. Okay, so this one is Jim Lee with Klaus, also used for the cover. So it's Jim Lee and Klaus Jensen there on inks. It almost looks like Jim inking himself. He's a very super rough inker. He's not very kind to his page when he inks it. Not a lot of finesse, but I think he's more of a direct artist when he inks himself. I don't know who inked this stuff right here. Maybe Klaus again. I'm not sure. Didn't read up on it. We're gonna skip some pages here. This feels like a Wills Portacio panel to me. Maybe Wills is hanging out with Jim's pad by now. I do know Wills was working more regularly with Scott Williams on the Punisher ongoing series, so it could have been. These inks feel very Wildstormy to me, like 93 Wild. I don't know. There's something about it. Might be some ghost inks going on here. Just things I'm catching. I'm catching stuff in here that I never caught in newsprint while I am going through these books with all of you. Okay, so we got issue 9. I think Jim inked himself. He wrote it in webbing. It says Jim Lee, and there's no other autograph worked into there. So I believe this might be Jim inking himself for the first time on a Punisher cover. That's very Klaus Jensen. Yeah, right here. This right here screams Nolan to me. I don't know. It's kind of pulling from a few places, maybe. Yeah, this is different. Might be a sitch where he was doing layouts almost, because yeah, this even feels like when Jim gets in there and plays around with his thumb and stuff. Very, very gritty approach. All of this. Interesting. A little bit of Sienkiewicz in there as well. I'm skipping some pages here. All right, issue 10. Sniper's back. Scott Williams is back. So issue 10. This is the second Scott full issue here. And it shows really clean lines. Really, really nice thick to thin outlines. Really cool shading in here. This is all complete control. So this is Scott, full form Scott. He's got a little bit of kind of what he was doing over Wills, though. Some of this rapid line under the neck here. It would be like a year or two after this when everyone started really, really focusing, like hyper-focusing on cross-hatching is this way, right? Like being super technical. You can see the makings of it here, but this is still like house style, right? Like Jim's still drawing he's still showing some of his love for that really loose John Byrne stuff that he probably came up, emulating. But there is a lot of Art Adams going on too. The faces, like underneath of these little areas, the wrinkles in the faces and stuff. It's very, very Arthur Adams to me when I look at this stuff. But definitely Jim coming into his own with these shadows. I guess that's awesome. Yeah, this is starting to feel a lot more with his approach to lighting, at least. There is a little bit of Mike Golden in here too. I don't think that's what he's pulling from, though. I think this is like Jim and drawing using his intuition, if that makes sense. He's already added all that stuff to his arsenal. I'm just saying, I don't think he has an open copy of the Nom or something next to him. I think this is like him just doing him. You spend enough time looking at stuff, you just start to absorb it. I can't read the autograph here. Oh, so this is Jim and then Klaus Jensen inks, by the way. Very hard to see. All dark blue. It actually blends right in to the color. I saw this original. So the original art to this, I saw Stan Lee did a giant autograph right in this area right here. The owner got Stan Lee to sign it. I don't remember seeing Jim Lee's autograph on it, though, weirdly enough. I only remember seeing Stan Lee. All right, so then this is pretty sure Milgram inks. I'm only halfway through here. We're going to keep busting through this. Jim is a big fan of this door kick panel here. He's used it on at least 4 different times that I've seen. Probably more. Just there's a few that stand out in my head. Let's see here. These are kind of loose. You know what? I don't think this is Jim. Hold on. I think this is a Kubert fill-in. Is this Jim still? I don't know. Maybe Jim. Okay, right now we're in maybe Jim territory. I don't know. This feels like a Andy Kubert to me. So maybe, maybe not, maybe still Jim. I'm not sure. Got another cover here. Jim Lee inking himself, apparently. No inker autograph there. So this is Jim with, it almost looks like Terry Austin. I'm not sure. It's not Scott, though. So we're going to keep going here. We're only about halfway through here. Let's skip some pages here. I love this cover so much. This cover to 13 is awesome. So Jim inking himself, but there's just something about it. This cover is just so good. Look at this. You see this kick right here? You get to see this later, but it's not Punisher. It's Psylocke. Exact same shot. So again, artists regurgitating the things that sell. They know what sells. They know what got the best kinetic energy behind it. Get real comfortable drawing that pose, and you're going to keep drawing it. Just don't want to abuse it. All right, this, I'm not even sure what's going on here. I don't think this is fully Jim. Not sure. All right, I'm going to skip some pages here. So I think around here is where it starts kind of falling off. So what is it? Like issue, I think he comes back around like 18. I don't know how far we're in. Really cool Mark Teixeira issue. We're not here for Teixeira, but I will slow down here because I love his work so much. Yeah. Undervalued and underappreciated. Absolutely. Just such a really cool, unique approach to his comic pages. Jim Lee inking himself again right here. I use this image for my thumbnail for this video. So you got Jim Lee and then Milgram. You know what's really weird? They omitted this stuff. They omitted this stuff from most of the fronts of the pages. So you get Jim Lee pencils with Milgram on inks. Again, kind of back to basics. A lot of zip tone usage. Hashtag not Scott. It's definitely not Scott. Nothing against Al. Yeah, you get to see him draw a lot of different characters in here. So you get to see Jim Lee's early takes on like Kingpin. You get to see Wolverine in here. You know, you get to see, I think Daredevil at some point shows up. Here's issue 18. I think this was it for him. I don't even know who. Man, this is a crazy looking panel. I don't know. Super unclean, then it gets like really good. I'm not sure what happened there. All right, so you got this fight sequence. Let's pump through here. Here's a panel we've seen Jim do several times. I actually got the idea to do this from Jim myself, where you just kind of connect two characters going through a conversation and creating that line down the middle where they can bounce back and forth on the text. and they're connected through the shadow with the harsh light and the harsh light, and it fuses the two characters together. Just it reads easy. Yeah. So yeah, this whole run of books, it's really just getting to see Jim grow as an artist, and then just went straight into Uncanny X-Men out of here. And without the time he spent on the War Journal books, this was his training ground. This is where he was doing all of his push-ups, right? So you wouldn't have gotten that same approach had he not spent the time he did on these books. So if there is a linear path for Jim, that's pretty much kind of where I see it. Like, the development phase was the Punisher books, and all that. Willis, Portacio is a different story. Portacio had already, in my opinion, was already a developed, established style artist. Yeah. He had plenty of pages prior, Strike Force Mortuary, and obviously the Legion of the Night stuff and all that. So he had a little bit of an advantage getting all the opportunity. He had many more opportunities to work with Scott Williams as an inker versus Jim. Jim only got him for, you saw that, 2 books. And then a couple with Klaus. Klaus is kind of a little bit of a hijacker / finisher, as I am myself. And I know how that works. You can completely change the aesthetic of an artist of what they lay in pencil. Sometimes for the better. Sometimes you think you're doing it for the better, and it's really, you just don't really get the vision that the artist wanted to begin with. And that happens. All these books in here, these are all bred. These were all, they had to be done, fresh for sale next week. Like, they didn't have time to really rehash and go over stuff. It's a production line. So when you're working on monthly books, you sometimes you just gotta have to take what they give you and try to move forward. Yeah, these issues are cool. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is it for Jim. I do think there is some Kubert stuff. We're also gonna bypass that. I think this was Andy Kubert. I think, maybe. No, it's Carl Potts. Okay, that's not Kubert. Andy Kubert draws better than that. All right, we're gonna skip. We're gonna get all the way back here. Oh, that's gross. Get all the way back here, and where are we at? Okay, so then I guess. Okay, so after this page here, this was a backup story with Jim Lee, Scott Williams inks. Although I suspect Wills possibly did some pencils in here, maybe. This just feels like a Wills thing to me. This doesn't feel like a Jim to me. I don't know. I might be reading into it too much. So, yeah, backup story in, what is it, Punisher Annual or Punisher War Journal Annual 2. This is a very Bill Sienkiewicz thing to do. Repeated pattern, and no matter which direction the character is moving, the pattern just overlaps the way, like an overlay layer. It doesn't twist and turn over the character based on the movement of the shirt. Yeah, this stuff's pretty cool to see. You got some profile stuff. There's Jim right there. These are some of the Armory pages. I have no idea who actually drew these. I have no clue. I am pretty sure Wills told me way back, like many years ago, just because I would, super nerd, asking questions about what's it like working in your studio, things when I was little, like when I was a kid. And he's like, oh, actually, I think he was saying a lot of the guns and stuff that you see in the Punisher series, they actually had a lot of these rifles and stuff. Like they had them in the studio, for reference. So that's how they're able to pull off a lot of these crazy angles and stuff. Because you got to remember too, no internet back then. No internet. You're not going to have a giant stack of guns and ammo next to you, and they don't always feature the same weapon that might be specified in the script. So, all right, we got some Armory covers here. Both of these are Jim Lee. Super awesome. I really like the tone of this one here. Jim Lee drew. Oh, he inked it too. Okay, so here's an old Marvel Age cover here. You might not have ever seen it. Jim Lee pencils and inks. Look at this early Wolvie right here. It's crazy. This is Jim drawing Punisher prior to working on War Journal. Namor. There you go. I don't think he drew Namor again until Heroes Were Born. All right. Got some other stuff here. Jim Lee did a painting for Punisher Magazine 14. Jim Lee right there. Very, very similar to kind of what you would see later Batman. Okay, so this was a trade paperback. This Eye for an Eye is not a one. It's a few of the issues in one, okay? So if you seek this out, look at, again, right here. This is a very common layout thing. He really likes to kind of work with, move the eye from here to here, and then he bricks it off with almost like an arrow. Everything here kind of works into like an arrow formation to the corner of the page. This is what I was talking about, the African Saga. Okay, so this one here only collects issue 6 and 7. I'm pretty sure. I never owned this. Got a buddy that owned this, and I read his several times. Mostly because I didn't want to mess up my copies of... I didn't want to read my own books. I'm like, hey, can I read that trade? This was an advertising piece right here for it. Looks like Jim did an illustration here. Kind of looks like Carl Pozzo. I'm not really sure. I'm not going to commit to that. Oh, it does say Jim Lee. Man, this is like Artist Alley days, maybe. So it's an Overstreet price update. This is either a quickie drawing or it's like way before Marvel. I don't know. It does not feel like his Marvel work at all. These were posters. I don't know who colored them, but this is Jim Lee art, Jim Lee full inks at least. I have no clue what the process was on these. I think I saw this as a 2-sheet poster set that connected up at, it used to be called Fact Fiction and Fantasy up in Livermore, California. I'm pretty positive I'd seen it up there when I was younger. I don't know if Jim drew this. I think Jim drew this. I think he did. I'm not sure. Got some fake ads here. This was this thing never came out. This was an old Marvel Age ad for the Jim Lee, the one-off. It was supposed to be a hardcover, yeah. A lot of these pages have leaked on the internet. I don't think they actually have them in here, though. Yeah, they don't. So we get to see some of the originals back here. These are Milgram inks. Yeah, this is Milgram inks for sure. A lot of that Zipatone going on in here. You could see where stuff was hit with Sharpie. The discoloration. Don't use Sharpie on your work, guys. Just don't use Sharpies. Like, find anything else you can use. Don't use a Sharpie. This is another page here. I think this is also Al Milgram inks. And then this one here is, Jim Lee and Carl Potts. And this one here is actually autographed by both on the original down here. So this is the original artwork to that cover. I do like seeing more Jim than Carl Potts. when they would collab on these pages and the covers and stuff, I do like seeing a lot more of Jim's essence come through on them. It's just, I don't know, it just makes it a stronger piece. Carl Potts obviously knew what was up. Interesting. So here's the page. It doesn't have the autograph. The one, like I said, this must have been uh, shot earlier because I've seen the original and it has a giant Stanley autograph, like right in this area over the cross hatching background, like right here. So yeah, they must have acquired this scan before the owner got Stan to do that. You get a piece right here. Who inked this one? It just says Jim Lee. So maybe Jim inked this himself. I don't know. Here's this kind of rare right here. Uh, Scott Williams pencil and inks on himself. You got Cap versus Punisher here. It's a pretty rad piece. And then some of these covers with their new colors. This is a really strong piece in black and white. It'd be really interesting to see this stuff collected if they could get like an artist edition of some sort. And then this was a Ghost Rider cover Jim Lee did of issue 5. Obviously, it's right there. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, oh, you know what? I didn't talk about this book enough. Okay, so this right here, this is what you get if you seek out Punisher War Journal in Spain or Portugal. Okay, so that's where you would find this at. So if you have connections to anywhere online or interested, you live in the States, I would recommend I think it's like Amazon.es. I think it's .es. It's like es like Espanol, right? Maybe eBay. So a lot of these companies or websites, they have like their they use the acronym as the extension instead of .com. So if you could seek out maybe like Spanish eBay, Spain, maybe even Italian eBay, I'm not sure. But I know with Amazon, if you look up, I think it's .es, might be able to track this down. This took about 6 months to come in. I'm just going to let you know. And Panini, they have them available on the site. They do not ship to the US. And I don't know why they don't. They just don't do it. It's super annoying having to go through third parties. So yeah. And of course, La Reca is a pretty good place as well. If you want to find some like rare stuff, but you are rolling the dice. When you order stuff, you never really know, is it going to show up? Is it like anything can happen, right? So, anywho, thanks for hanging out. That is my copy there of what I'm going to call it the Omnibus. We don't have this in the States yet. I don't know if we ever will. I feel like they've kind of ditched the whole 80s Punishers kind of done with, right? And I know that Marvel has kind of like stopped producing deluxe edition hardcovers or even like the Masterworks line. I was told by a vendor that they're no longer really doing that kind of stuff anymore. They're only going to be doing the omnibus style thing. So might get this in the US. That'd be pretty cool. I'll have to get that one too. I'm hoping for the Will Swan. I do have the, not Marvel's Finest. I forgot the name of it. But anyways, there are 2 volumes of the Whilce Portacio run, which it starts with the mini-series by Zek, goes up through the Portacio ongoing series, who also had fill-in issues by Eric Larson. Early Eric, right? Pre-Spidey. And yeah, they really should just put this thing out, because like at this point, this is the alternative. You can get the floppies, you could track this down, and that's pretty much it. I don't recall the trade paperback that they had in here for those 2 issues. I feel like it was kind of cheapened. I think you're better off getting the floppies if you can, because I don't remember this being printed on very nice paper. So by now, this thing is already over 30-something years old. These books might be falling apart. I don't know. And they were glue bound, not stitched. And it's such a small book. Kind kind of similar to like the Alan Davis prestige format Wolvie book, or even, you know, the Excalibur special. Those pages fall out, you know, on extensive reading. So anyways, guys, yep, have a good one.